Edinburgh. This schizophrenic town was described by Robert Louis Stevenson not just in his famous novel inspired by the city, but by his words quoted on this plaque in 1878. What did he mean by this? Was it true then? And is it still true today? If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen. And if you enjoy the video, then like it, share it, and watch the next one. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. Now, the author of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde said, to look over the South Bridge and see the Cowgate below full of crying hawkers is to view one rank of society from another in the twinkling of an eye. The haughty up there and the humble down here. Now, I can't think of a better way to illustrate Stevenson's poetic claim than by contrasting two boys, both born of Irish parents in this town within 10 years of each other. Arthur Conan Doyle would go on to be a famous writer and a knight of the realm. His world was up there. James Connolly, the campaigner for workers and Irish liberties executed after the Easter Rising in Dublin, was brought up in poverty down here. Two streets in touching distance literally were figuratively worlds apart. Somewhere around here at 107 Cowgate is where James Connolly was born. A more prosaic writer than Stevenson said at the time, the Cowgate is the Irish portion of the city. The inhabitants are morally and geographically the lower orders. Many an Edinburgh man has never set foot in the street. Ireland's potato famine had brought people to live here in overcrowded, unsanitary, grinding poverty. The damp vaults under the bridge had been used for storage as workshops or taverns, and then housing for the poorest. And more recently, performances at Edinburgh's Festival Fringe. But we'll come to that. Let's go up and mix with the better bread. Why wouldn't folks in Southbridge look down on those below? They don't just have height, they've got a Sainsbury's. They've got coffee shops and bookshops. Of course, Stevenson and the polite society who read his works lived up here. Dr. Jekyll would visit these places by day. Mr. Hyde lived down there by night. As its name suggests, the Cowgate started as the road that cows walked up for sale in the grass market. By the time Mary Queen of Scots was a babe, merchants had created buildings like Magdalen Chapel that gave the Cowgate a very different feel to what Stevenson saw 200 years later. But this bridge itself had created the two-tier gulf between upper and lower. This bridge may have helped create the gulf of an underworld, but for the story of Jekyll and Hyde, let's go to a bridge built slightly earlier. This is North Bridge. About 15 years before the South Bridge down there, the original North Bridge was built here, across a valley that enabled the new town to be built over there. The creation of the new town at the other side of this bridge split a city 100 years before Stevenson. And it gave him the idea for Jekyll and Hyde. Deacon Brodie's pub, with a respectable man about town on one side of its signage and a dark criminal on the other. This was the inspiration for Robert Louis Stevenson's Jekyll and Hyde. Let me condense the story. Across the road there is Deacon Brodie's coffee shop. In the mid-18th century, before it was a coffee shop, it was the workshop of William Brodie, cabinet maker, locksmith, deacon of his trade guild and town councillor. A man who met with poet Robert Burns and painter Henry Raeburn. Now, wild living and gambling habit and the inevitable debt that followed led this respectable gentleman to recruit a gang of criminals. As I say, the town had been split as the Toffs had decanted from the old town here over the North Bridge or down the Mound to the new town. Brodie's role gave him access to the homes of the solicitors, doctors and nobilities whose houses over there. And his locksmith skills, well, this flourishing criminal enterprise eventually fell apart and everyone got their dues. Let me know if you want me to tell the full story. But he was the double-faceted character in a divided town that gave Robert Louis Stevenson his inspiration for Jekyll and Hyde. The old town and the new town were also divided by architecture. The reason why Edinburgh was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1995 is because of the juxtaposition of old and new towns with a unique blend of urban development from different historical periods. Princes Street Gardens is the fault line in architecture, but also it's a division in social class and time. In fact, it's still shaping the different architecture of the two sides of the city today. You can't imagine a monstrosity like the copper dog turd of the St James Quarter in the Old Town. Could you? Before the new town was built, everyone lived in the Old Town. They literally lived on top of each other. Social divisions were based on what floor you lived on. At a time when folks threw personal waste out of windows and multi-storey poorly regulated buildings perched precariously on this rock projecting into the sky, posh people wouldn't be living in the dangerous precipice of upper floors or with all the peas in the ground level. Do you see what I did there? Anyway, people were divided by stories. Although then again, aren't we always? Here's the point. At different times in its history, Edinburgh's social classes have been divided either by floors in high tenements or between old and new town or by walkways of the South Bridge and Cowgate. But why did they keep building up in Old Town Edinburgh? Why didn't the town spread out to the north earlier, given a gradual rather than a sudden architectural change? The schizophrenia of Edinburgh goes back millions of years. Come with me. Stevenson looked down from Southbridge to the Cowgate. Why? Northbridge crossed this valley in preparation for and linking to new town buildings. Why? Volcanic eruption and ice age erosion. That's why. A volcano creates a plug of hard rock with soft rock round about it. As glaciers sweep across the geological surface, the hard rock and anything in its wake is left and the soft rock either side is gouged out. That's why Edinburgh has a crag and a tail formation with a rocky hilltop at one end and a long tail down towards Holyrood at the other. People were bound to build a castle at the top. Of course they were. Steep cliffs on three sides, along with a slope up to it from the east. You'd be mental not to. Of course, a town evolved along the long road that followed that tail and buildings and streets on either side of it. It wasn't inevitable that there'd be a royal abbey at the bottom, but after David I met a magical stag, there's no surprise that the thoroughfare between Abbey and the castle would reach the importance that it has. And since the distance between is a Scots mile, 12% more than an English mile, it was probably always going to be called the Royal Mile. Well, technically Lawn Market, High Street and Canonsgate, but detail. The steep, craggy slopes with a gully either side meant that there was no scope to build out. This growing town had to build up. It's also why the city didn't grow gradually but had a sudden expansion when somebody had the bright idea of building a bridge to a new town beyond the fetid loch to the north. That new town was built with the architecture of the time. Neoclassical Georgian obsession captured like an insect in amber. When the city did expand beyond that rocky outcrop, the deep gullies north and south meant that it had to do it with bridges that define the city today. The Cowgate that Stevenson observed from the South Bridge was the southern gully. The closes that ran down the steep slopes either side of the Royal Mile into these gullies still characterise the city. The older buildings that have been built over is what gives Victorian dungeons and vaults, dive bars, quirky restaurants and current day fringe venues housed in every basement. And a hidden underworld for ghost tours in every crypt and cellar. Whoa. The town's geography is its character and its split personality. Before Stevenson, many of the coffee houses and taverns that bred the Scottish Enlightenment were in these vaults created by ice and fire thousands of years before. But what does that mean today? You can see a more subtle aspect of the town's modern split personality just below the castle at Camera Obscura. From this 360-degree viewpoint, you can see an Edinburgh divide that's less obvious. But it is unique. They tell me that there are 71 private schools in Scotland, serving just over 4% of the school population. From this point, you can see 15 of them, taking in 25% of the Edinburgh school population. That's mental! Nowhere else in the world has such a dense concentration of private schools in a city visible from one point. Now, there may be several reasons for this. Possibly Presbyterianism, the timing of literacy, enlightenment, they might all contribute. But undoubtedly, one contributor is the function of this being a capital city. That process started as far back as the Canmore dynasty and consolidated under the Stuarts for exactly the reasons that I've talked about. Castle, abbey, straight road in between. Not like the royal centre of Stirling, where the castle and abbey were separated by a winding river Forth, but better. Closer to the entrance of that Forth estuary here, where a port of Leith could add trade to the virtuous triangle of royal, ecclesiastical and commercial power. The geography of this place has made its history and its current day appeal. It brought royal patronage, professional people, private schools and haves and have-nots. Maybe the schools are the biggest divide in this city. Some will go on to further studies at Edinburgh University and end up being decision makers, bankers, lawyers and Dr. Jekylls. Many more will be destined to hide in the modern day Cowgate. Now let me point out that Edinburgh is the starting point for most of my group tours. The ultimate Jacobite tour in April, the Wonders of the Highlands tour in May and Bruce's big bumper birthday tour in September. Now, if you're thinking, I'd love to see Scotland's history and wonder and comfort enjoying full board in 4- and 5-star hotels as other tourists jealously look on saying, oh no, they've got that overweight but devastatingly handsome dreadlocked YouTube guy as their tour guide. How did they get that? Why couldn't we have him? Well, the answer is, you can. For information, just click the link top right or in the description below or email alexis@scotlandhistorytours.co.uk. Of course, tourism is a double-edged claymore. Today, it's one great divide that stands out in Edinburgh. It used to be focused around fringe. I remember once standing handing out flyers for a show that I was doing one year. And by the way, this show was Scottish history and comedy. Scottish history! My target audience was Scots and people who live and love Scotland. I went to hand a guy a flyer who was clearly a normal working class Scotsman. He walked past me saying, "I'm not interested, mate, I live here." Now, I could tell from his accent that he did. Fringe and the attraction of that old and new town UNESCO heritage brings folks from the world over. You'll hear 100 accents and languages. Isn't it weird that his was the one that didn't seem to belong in the town centre? No wonder he saw fringe as an intrusion. Now, there are economic benefits, hotel revenue, restaurants, Airbnb, shops and more. The reason why Edinburgh University is the envy of every other university in Scotland is that the revenue that they generate through renting student accommodation as holiday lets, rooms and halls and lecture theatres as performance spaces during Fringe is something other Scottish universities can only dream of. Now, my flyer rejecting local clearly felt that influx of cash didn't benefit him. And truth be told, I'm sure much of it just goes out again to people, companies and bank accounts based elsewhere. Of the university, he might say, yeah, but only 26% of Edinburgh University students are Scots. And they're the ones from those private schools. The rest are from elsewhere in the UK or abroad. How does that benefit me? Edinburgh is still a divided city. Stevenson looked down from South Bridge at the very time that bridge would see Edinburgh grow beyond the geography that formed its character. My flyer rejecting Edinburgher now looks into town rather than up. But in many ways, Edinburgh is still the divided city of Jekyll and Hyde. Who knows? Maybe my guy was descended from poor Irish immigrants who lived in poverty in the Cowgate. As Robert Louis Stevenson looked down in judgment, this guy's ancestor looked up in forlorn hope. He doesn't live in the Cowgate now. Who can afford accommodation in the old or the new town these days? That's for tourists. He lives in Sighthill or Niddrie, Gorgie, Leith, Craigan, Tinney, Stenhouse, places like that. Some of the things that formed this divided city began millions of years ago with geology. But then again, if you're watching from Toronto, New York, Sydney, Dublin, Frankfurt or Amsterdam, and you notice the same social and economic divisions, maybe it's not just geography. I'll leave you to ponder that. If you want to know more about Edinburgh's history, then you should watch the video coming up on screen now. If you've enjoyed this video, then like it, share it, and watch the next one. Support the channel by clicking top right to become a Patreon member, or buy me a coffee in the description below. In the meantime, ha' mi an dóchas cyn bí lam alaith. Siar an drastan.